Over the past 18 months, SEO has been turbulent. It feels like there's been more changes than ever before. And it's left some of us wondering, where is SEO going? How do we stay relevant? Well, the guest I've got on today, he's got some really interesting ideas. It was an extremely refreshing conversation, and I think you'll enjoy it. Cool. So, Ray, there's a lot of negativity in SEO just now. I open up Twitter or LinkedIn and I just see negativity, really. You, on the other hand, though, you seem very positive. It's actually really refreshing to see you post and hear your podcasts because you're just super positive in it. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted you on this podcast. And let's just start off with a big question. How do you see the state of SEO just now?
It's an interesting one right now because a lot of things are changing. And I think a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people are scared right now. And I think the reason why they're scared, it comes from a place of insecurity. Most of the people that I've spoken to, like I've got a few mentors in the industry who've been diehard SEOs for a while, and they've told me themselves that they're really scared right now because things are changing at a rate where they've never seen before. And when you've done something in a certain way and you've always been able to work it out, and all of a sudden over the last 12 to 18 months, everything's just changed. The stuff that you used to do isn't working as well. The SERPs are completely different. So I think right now, because of all of this, everyone in SEO is scared, but I think where SEO is going is we're going to be more in demand than ever. I think a lot of people don't see the opportunity that's there because search isn't going away. Like I know yesterday the update came out with Search GPT and stuff. Search is expanding and it's changing more than ever. And SEOs, our skill set is more in demand than ever. So, and that's not just in Google, Amazon, eBay, TikTok, YouTube, all these different platforms. Search is happening on them. And it doesn't matter if Google is struggling right now, or if people think that the demand for search on Google is going down, which I don't think it is either. It's just like a little bit of their market share has gone. People are still searching on a level to find products. One thing that I said in one of the talks I did recently was all about how I think search is expanding and Google isn't being replaced. A lot more people are just searching at different places. So especially for high ticket items and niches and products and services where people spend a lot of money, because a lot of thought has to go into that. So I use this example in one of my talks where I spoke about booking my friend Stag Do. And within that, I kind of spoke about how I had to go through a long searching process to make my decision before I did that. And I didn't just do that on Google. So I started on TikTok to find my initial awareness-led kind of content, looked to the ideas, got inspiration from that, looked at the reviews that people were leaving in their comments, took that information, and then I went away and I did it on another platform. I went to Google after that. Then I went to Reddit. I searched on Reddit to look for reviews, went back to Google to go to find websites like Trustpilot, then went finally and booked it via Google. So that's the whole thing. Like, people don't realize that we as humans, we are thinking more critically than ever. We're not just making a decision based off one indicator, one search off Google. We're using so many different data points to make our decision. The other thing people don't get, and I think the reason why people are a bit more scared of this, is they think that because all of these different points are happening, it's going to take a lot longer to optimize for it. And it doesn't make sense for them, because we understand how to optimize for Google. As SEOs, we'll do a strategy that we know will last a certain amount of time. We know exactly how to infiltrate that. And we think that it will take people maybe 6 months to get through, Google to index it over a period of maybe 3 to 6 months. And then during that time, we need to wait for the user to go through that search journey. What people are not understanding is people are making these decisions a lot faster. So that whole search journey that I spoke about just there, people can do that within 5 minutes. 10 minutes like that. If I wanted to book an event or something, or if I wanted to buy a high ticket item, it's no longer the case. If I want to read loads and loads of blogs, I can do that entire search journey from TikTok to YouTube to ChatGPT back to Google, all within the space of 5-10 minutes, and then call my friend and be like, oh, I'm going to buy this, by the way, what do you think? And that's it. That's done. And that's how I think the search journey is changing, and it's happening at a rapid rate.
Yeah, I agree. The funnel just isn't linear. It's completely non-linear. People are moving around to different platforms. I mean, even recently I bought a coffee machine. It's quite an expensive coffee machine, but I love my coffee. And I went to Google. I typed in, best coffee machines. And then I watched long reviews on each coffee machine on YouTube. And then after that, I think I went to Reddit, and then I went back to Google. And it was only like 2 weeks later that I had enough like confidence that this was the coffee machine I wanted to buy. But you know, it wasn't linear. It wasn't like I went top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. I bounced around, and I've been saying that for a while. And I think that, you know, to change your like lens from old school SEO to this new lens is very, very different. And I think people are finding a lot of friction with that. There's only so many people speaking about it. You know, you're one of them that comes to mind. And I think it's a very interesting time for new SEOs too, because if they come in with this, you know, they've used TikTok, you know, an older SEO hasn't really, you know, they're maybe more opposed to TikTok. You definitely have an advantage. But I just want to know what shaped your paradigm here. You know, like what experiences have you had that have led you to having this this view on SEO?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my career on the social media side of things. So I didn't know anything about SEO for probably like 5-6 years at the start of my career. Like since I was probably like 15, 16, I was building Instagram accounts, selling Instagram accounts, producing TikTok videos, doing TikTok strategies, selling those to brands, eventually went freelance into that industry. And then I just ended up falling into SEO around COVID time when my freelance clients started cutting their retainers down. So I came from a full background of just social creative and content and social strategy and understanding that side of things, where I achieved I was able to do some crazy things. And I think one thing that about me is when I get into a platform, I really like to deep dive into it until I can really understand exactly how that algorithm works, or exactly how I can create content that's relevant to the users for that platform. And I think I was able to learn that very quickly in social. But then when I switched to SEO, it was a completely different ball game, because social was really quick and it was really like, how do I put it, like so creative focused. I feel like video production, liaising with video teams, having to be there in person. And when I moved to SEO, I realized, wow, this industry is crazy, because people are going freelance. They have agencies. They don't actually have to be at the client's office. They can do this all remotely. A lot of stuff is all content writing. It's a lot of link building. It's PR. You know, there's a lot of things that are happening that you can do without actually being there. And then I spent some time doing digital PR, did a digital PR role for a little bit, SEO roles, went on to become SEO and website manager for different brands, consulted with a bunch of brands on both SEO and social. And what I realized during this entire journey was there is a massive link between the two. And those two, on an organic side, they are the connection for an aligned marketing strategy. And I think a lot of people are missing that, because I try to say this a lot to people. Social content lasts probably around 72 hours if it hasn't gone mega viral. Sorry. If it hasn't gone mega viral and it isn't showing up on like the repeated kind of like, let's say TikTok and Reels sometimes re-show your content to people after a few weeks. If that's not happening, your piece of content's only lasting 72 hours maximum. And that's all that people are seeing of it. But if you add a search element to that, the same way that SEO works, all of a sudden that piece of content that you've produced and you spent so much time on social can now bring you leads, traffic, revenue for months to years to come. And we're seeing this a lot on TikTok. The only thing is the attribution still isn't there at the moment. So we're still working on how exactly to attribute this. Like, for example, if you did a video on an e-commerce product, or you did a product video, you can know that TikTok video sold that product out and is continuing to sell that out if you're continuing to get engagement on that post and that product keeps selling out. That's how you attribute at the moment. But I know that all these different platforms are working on different ways to help people attribute, especially TikTok itself. I know I've had some conversations with some people at TikTok where they've discussed exactly how they're working on different things right now. They're going to be very cool for the search space. So I'm very excited for that to come out. But yeah, so during my career, I've kind of seen the shift of how these two are coming together. Also with, I suppose, since I've started SEO, because compared to most people in the industry, I probably joined SEO very late. I'm still very early in the SEO side of things. It's just, like I said, because I've got so deep into it, built my own sites, I've been able to learn a lot faster. And I think I've been lucky enough to have the right mentors in the space as I've progressed in my career to learn it quickly. And I think that because of that, I've been able to see the whole thing of everyone saying SEO is dead. I'm sure you probably hear it every year. And a lot of SEOs I spoke to said they've heard it from the start of their career. But from my perspective, I see it as SEO is not dead or dying or ever has been. It's just always been changing, and I just don't think that anything else has changed here. And that's why when I see social, I see the combination of those two together, especially for brands. Like, I've worked in-house at a few brands now. I've consulted with a bunch of like major brands, and they've all had the same kind of issue. They've always put SEO and organic separate. SEO is always seen just as a performance channel. And I really think that because of the creativity, I mean, you know yourself from the content stuff that you guys do, it's such a creative space and there's so much organic growth there. It should really sit with your social team and your PR team more closely so that you can build that brand. I mean, we've seen over the past 2 years now how important brand is to any website, whether it's a niche website, whether it's an affiliate website, whether it's just an actual product, like, you know, like an actual business. Brand is one of the most important indicators when you combine all the signals to make that. Once you break it down, those are all the SEO signals that help you rank anyway. And doing social, PR, and search, putting them all in one department, I think is the future. And I think that's where it's going anyway. And I think anyone who's kind of against that is probably still thinking that you just focus on one element. And I think a lot of times when I speak to a lot of the old school SEOs, they're very like, I think there was a whole thing of you needed to really niche down into one element at SEO, and that's what made you more money quickly. And I think now what's happening is people are seeing, oh, I wish I'd learned a little bit of this, or I'd picked up a little bit of this, so now I can kind of expand into these services. But that's the thing, if we move this into an organic department, it gives the opportunity for new SEOs coming up and anyone who's in the industry still at the moment to be able to pick up these other skills and really help build into that full brand ecosystem rather than being a siloed channel.
So you're saying that, just so I understand, before it was maybe you become a specialist technical SEO or a specialist link builder or a specialist content manager, but now you're saying that it's actually better to be a generalist and have a good understanding of these different channels and how they work.
Yeah, less of like, I'm not saying for us, because a lot of people might be like, oh, I don't want to go and learn how to make TikTok content. I don't want to do digital PR. I'm not interested in that. You don't need to learn the skill set, but more you need to have a very good understanding of it so that you can show the value that your technical SEO, the technical changes you're making and how that integrates with the rest of the brand ecosystem. And I think that's really a really important skill that a lot of SEOs don't have. And I think once you have that, you get the opportunity to one, build the brand just better in general. Like, you'll get more traffic, you'll get more revenue, you'll get more authority, but you'll also be able to communicate with your team better. You'll be able to be involved with a lot more things. And I think from a career standpoint, especially if you're an SEO who's just done tech SEO and you've always been siloed in that, it gives you that chance to maybe jump up and do things that the organization will see more value from you from.
Very interesting. And I agree completely. I think we're going to see more and more of this be spoken about right now. It's definitely the next thing. But let's talk practicalities then, because there's like so many, there's just so much to this. So I want to give you an example. If I give you, for example, a B2B brand, they've been on LinkedIn for a while, they maybe had the odd social post go off, nothing's really taken off. They come to you and they want you to help them. They've had no SEO and they ask you for SEO, but you look at these queries and fairly complicated, hard to rank. It's going to take some time. What would you say to them?
So sometimes when I work with brands that I can see that SEO is going to take a while, I realized that sometimes an organic social push or a PR push is probably the best way to go to start with. With a B2B business, it's interesting. So let's say they're active on LinkedIn already. They're not ranking that well on Google, but we've got an SEO strategy in place in the background and that's working. We know that's going to take time. I'd probably go at it from an approach of personal branding. And because one thing that works really well on LinkedIn is getting your employees to produce content and share stuff about the organization and connect with your target customers, employees that are on the same level as them. So like in level, I mean, as in job title. And that works really effectively because that's real people who work at your organization. They're slightly biased in terms of they've worked there, but they're producing real stories. And what that does is build a level of authenticity that other content doesn't really produce. Because you could go to your brand profile on LinkedIn, post a load of content, but if you're getting your employees to actually share related content and produce things that are around that, it just changes the narrative in terms of it makes your organization more human. I think one thing you'll notice is a lot more larger organizations are doing this. So you'll see, especially over in the US, and I think this is because of the social agencies that are based in the US, some of them that are coming over from the UK that are now consulting with these businesses over the US, is they're getting a lot more of these bigger brands, you know, like these massive consulting firms that would never have done anything like this before because their HR and their legal teams had complete red tape against this, and now allowing their employees to go ahead and post this content because they know it works and they know it garners attention. And I think attention is one of the most important things, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, where it's operating in a way that's very similar to how Facebook used to back in the day. And you'll see that because just in the cultural way, the types of memes people post, that's the type of memes you used to see on Facebook, the type of content and posts about their personal life that people are sharing. Like a lot more people are sharing when they get engaged or married, and, you know, these kind of related content. This is the type of stuff you used to post on Facebook, but it's just been taken to LinkedIn, but on a professional format. So you get an insight into the lives of people that you would work with professionally usually, but you almost are becoming their friends. So, and I think that's why it's so powerful right now. So yeah, if I was a B2B business, I'd focus on getting my team members to start posting content. But the idea is for that, it's not just saying post whatever you want, it's having an aligned strategy across your team. So going to each one of putting one message together, putting your pillars together of what you want your business or brand to be talking about, and then spreading that amongst your team, but then not having the level of control where you control every single thing they write, but just giving them a topic to cover. So one way that one of the agencies I worked at before, we implemented this process, and what we would do is we would actually get a list of kind of specialisms within the team, find out exactly who wants to post within the team, who wants to share content online, because they have to be comfortable with this as well. That's the other thing. You don't want to get your team to post if they don't want to, because this is a completely new area, and I think there's a lot of HR things that are involved with this. But we'd give them the topics within that we want them to cover. We'd then look for pain points that the target connections that they'd be connecting to would be interested in, that for the brands that we want to be working with, the businesses that we want to target, and then we get them to just produce content how they want to, as long as it's within that topic. And that worked really effectively. Like, you know, we'd get messages from high-level brand leaders or people in the procurement teams who are looking to take on agencies. So it's a really powerful way. And I think if I was B2B business, that's what I would focus on whilst SEO is working. Like that's probably going to be one of the most powerful drivers, especially if you're already active on LinkedIn. Outside that, of course, I mentioned PR in the background. I think just building like links. A lot of people, I don't know, there's always been this notion since I've started in SEO, links don't really work. And I don't know, I personally don't agree with that, because all the websites that I've built, the only time I've seen massive jumps in traffic is when I've done a digital PR campaign or a link building campaign, or done all various kind of link building tactics. I produced the content. Yes, I've optimized. Yes, I've technically made the website good. But when those links come in, all of a sudden, the authority is there and I'm able to rank a lot better. So I think that doing those digital PR campaigns, because they overall feed into your brand. I said this previously as well in one of my videos, where I've worked with a lot of startups as well in my time, and if you're a B2B startup, one of the best things that you can do when you first start out, when your website's just being built, when you've already got a content strategy in place, is to have a digital PR strategy or buy a digital PR package from an agency, because that will help launch your organization correctly. It will help you get the trust signals you need to add those logos to your website. So, you know, if you've been featured in X, Y, and Z website, add those onto your website, and all of a sudden you've got the trust signals you need. And then you've also got the whole fact of, if you're getting referral traffic, you will all of a sudden be a lot more relevant, especially if you're getting that referral traffic from relevant publications. If your PR campaign that you focused on is on the relevant business publications and people are actually reading those, you know, the traffic's there, all of a sudden you're relevant within your industry. And I think relevance is very important, especially in the early days.
Yeah, you know, PR is something I don't have much experience with myself, but personal branding, I mean, I built 3 businesses off of personal branding, and I wouldn't say that, you know, especially when I started, it was basically just built in public. And the follower count, you know, it was like less than a couple of thousand, and yet I managed to build 3 businesses. So like, for B2B brands, founder-led content is like such a hack. I think it's just hard for these founders to, you know, put themselves in that content, or pick up that content lens that they need, because it's when you're so close to stuff and like you do it day in and day out, it can be very hard to think about, oh, actually this is valuable, because it's just like your bread and butter. So it's really hard to extract that value. Do you have any advice around that?
Well, to start personal branding.
No, just mainly to think of like ideas. If you're a founder, you know, like it's natural to assume that everybody knows what you know, and you don't realize, well, actually you have a ton more experience. So like, how do you put yourself in that content? How do you get that content lens, that creative lens that these founders typically don't have?
Well, there's two ways of doing this, and the first way is working out if you're super busy as a founder, then it's better to probably hire someone like a ghostwriter to just go ahead and do that for you, because otherwise you're going to be spending all your time trying to think of content. And even for me, like I do this as a living. Like this is everything that I've done since the start of my career, and there are literally weeks where I'm sat there like, what do I post about this week? Like everyone goes through that kind of process. They don't know what information they think will be relevant. I think start from the basics and work out exactly what you're telling your customers. I think one of the easiest things that you can do if you're not hiring a ghostwriter, if you're not outsourcing it, is to just literally, because these are the type of things a ghostwriter will probably ask you anyway, is what questions do your customers ask you? Make a list of them, look at your FAQs on your website, and then go through them through a more detailed lens or a personal view of your own. Share, break it into more of a schedule. So I like to look at it as once a week I might post something that's more of a personal story or a piece of content that I think a lot more people will relate to that aren't in my industry. Then I'll speak about something that's happened that week. You can easily pull up your industry specific publications and go, this week this has happened. Like, for example, if you worked in SEO right now, you're an agency owner and you want to produce a piece of personal branding content this week, you could just go and do an entire post on search GPT, and that's your post done for this. And people aren't looking for, because what people are afraid of usually is, I don't want to repeat what everyone else is speaking about. Often, a lot of times when people follow you nowadays is based on the interest graph. So they're more interested in your perspective rather than actually knowing the information. Because the rate of how we get information nowadays, you can go onto Twitter and you'll see that search GPT is here, and that's it. It's out. Everyone's told you already. We're not looking, your followers aren't looking to see, oh, you told us that this is out. What they're looking for is your perspective of it. So, give your opinion, maybe do a post of a day in the life, like what have you been actually doing today? Because often throughout the day, you might do something interesting. You're speaking to different clients, you're speaking to different brands, you're speaking to your team members, you're giving them training, you're working on a financial document, or you've got your financial reports coming up, all these different things that other business owners will be interested in, or your clients might be interested in. Turn that into content, speak about your experience with that. I think that's a good place to start when you're thinking of ideas. And then as you get further into it, is then looking at what your customers really care about. Because once you've started posting, you've got the data there to look back and go, oh, when I did this post about the pain points that my customers face, this did really well. Let me break this into 7 posts and post 7 next 7 weeks is always effective. And then the other thing I think is quite difficult is sometimes the format. A lot of people will say video is the best format right now. And I personally love video. Like video has always been my go-to. I think it's because I have dyslexia, so I've never been that great at writing. I've always preferred to just speak on a camera and do video. It's always been my natural format. But a lot of people aren't comfortable with doing video. It's still a change that's happened over the last 3-4 years that's become more relevant within these, like especially on LinkedIn. Like a lot more people on LinkedIn are posting video, and a lot of people feel pressured to do the same. But you don't have to. The written posts that you do will still perform very well. LinkedIn is a place where a lot of times people are in the office reading content, so they might not be able to listen to a video. So don't overthink the format of it. If you don't have the time to produce carousels or the creative vision to create carousels and images, you don't have to do that either. Stick to the written post if that's the easiest. But alternatively, if you know that you prefer video, go ahead and just film that video. And the production value of a video doesn't have to be high. Like most people will just literally, whenever I post a piece of content, I will just put my phone down, just film it. And then because I've got experience with editing, I'll over edit mine sometimes. But most of the time you can just put it down and just post it. A lot of people just want to hear your perspective, your view on things, and they'll be fine to listen to you anyway, because LinkedIn is a professional platform. The mindset people are in is not like TikTok, where they want a short form piece of video to break up the feed and a hook that will make you excited to watch it. It's more of a place where people actually want to sit down and listen and learn. So that's something that's quite important to realize as well when you're creating content.
Yeah, I've really struggled with video. It's just so unnatural, and I think a lot of founders feel the same way. Yeah, with the ideas, one quick hack or tip that I do, I just journal before bed. I just literally bullet point what I've done that day, and then at the end of the week, I look at it and go, I could probably make something about that. And it's just such a nice little yeah, tip, I guess.
Yeah,
when you're
oh, sorry. I was
no,
going to
you go.
say, yeah, journaling before bed is a good one, because like I feel like if I didn't do that, I'd forget it the next day. I used to always be in the mindset of, oh, I remember this tomorrow, and then I'd always forget. So I'm very much in the habit of that now. But I feel like that, I don't know if this is the same for you, but I feel like that makes me very like, I can't sleep when I start thinking of ideas. I'm like listing off so many things.
Oh man, the worst is when you wake up at 4 a.m. and then you have like a great idea and you're like, do I go back to sleep or do I like voice note myself it? And then sometimes you voice note it to yourself and you wake yourself up and it's good. It's a great idea and you're glad. But then other times you send yourself the idea and you wake up the next day and it's just terrible and you're like, yeah, I was definitely dreaming. But yeah, no, I'm the same. I really struggle to switch off at night, especially when I have that creative lens on. Let's say you come across a good idea. Let's say you want to position yourself as like the social search guy. That's your part of your identity. Would you, and you spoke about like alignment across multiple channels, would you create like some pillar posts on, for example, just like what is social search and then other like bottom of funnel terms? Then would you syndicate that content across different socials, or would you go like, would you start with social first? And what I'm trying to ask, I guess, is how do you make the decision to start with social or SEO?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think the best way to look at it, I think there's been the whole model of the long form into short form. And I think that's a very good way of looking at it first. So if I say let's look at social search, my stuff, I don't really do a lot on my personal branding except for the odd video there at the moment. And even that, I mean, to be honest, has been quite effective for me. But if I wanted to turn this into a full strategy, and I've thought about this a few times, if I had the time to, what I would focus on first is building out that blog strategy first, because that's long form content that's going to be there way after, if TikTok gets banned, if LinkedIn has this, or a new social network gets taken over. I feel like your web content, your YouTube videos, your long form kind of piece, your podcast, they're going to be there and redistributable forever. Basically, you can always distribute them. But then from there, I look at it from a perspective of one thing that I always say is, don't distribute, contribute. So what a lot of people do is they end up taking a piece of long form content. They won't have the time to edit it correctly. So they'll just, like, let's say we take a blog post. They will just take a screenshot of that piece of blog, or they'll copy and paste word for word that exact section of that blog and then just post it directly onto LinkedIn. And there's a lot of AI tools I've noticed that do this as well. And then what they'll do is they'll take that exact same post, take that to Twitter and post that simultaneously, and they'll simultaneously post that to Instagram as a screenshot. And all of a sudden, you've got the exact same post on 3 different platforms that are all just one out of context screenshot or chunk from your article that's probably really good, but when people see that, they're not gonna relate to it. They're not going to want to read it. They're not going to be engaged at all. So what you need to understand is the native format of content on each of these individual platforms. So let's say you've got this long form. Let's say I've done a blog post all about search and social and how they work together, and I want to turn that into more content. What I would do is I would pick out the main points from that article. I would then go ahead, and the sections that I can copy and paste, I put them into a LinkedIn post, and I would put them into a LinkedIn post that's shorter or bullet pointed, so it's easier to read. It's not like the long form content. And then I'd add the link to the article in the comments, and then I'd share that, or I'd turn it into a carousel, because I know carousels work really well on LinkedIn. So I'd turn that into a carousel post that will talk all about that. Then I would then go to Instagram and I would turn it into maybe a carousel post, maybe a reel, maybe I'll do a video speaking about it. And that reel, that's a good piece of content there, because I can then edit that slightly, tweak it, and then change it over and put it onto TikTok. But the whole point of, whilst I'm doing all of this, I'm not doing it simultaneously. So this is the mistake I think a lot of people make. This works, yeah, if you're doing a company message, or if there's like a topic that's trending that you need to speak about on across all platforms, that's fine. But for a majority of your long form evergreen style content, do not do that simultaneously, because if you've got a follower on your Twitter that then also follows you on LinkedIn and sees the exact same post on both of these platforms, what they'll do is they won't be engaged with one of them, or maybe they'll be engaged with one of them and they won't like the other, or they'll comment on one, they won't comment on the other. And what that leads to basically having your engagement drop on one of your platforms. So that post there won't be seen by as many people, because the algorithm will think not a lot of people interacting with this, not a lot of people engaging with it, but they might have actually really enjoyed that piece of content. They've just seen it on Twitter already. But then let's say you don't do it simultaneously and you do what I usually do, which is I might tweet something and then I'll turn that tweet into a LinkedIn post, but I'll post that 2 weeks later. Then what will happen is, if that person who follows you on Twitter has then seen it on LinkedIn, they'll go, oh, actually, I've actually thought a bit more about this. There's another comment I can add about this. And then it also reinforces the message as well. So if they follow you on a multi-platform like level, they will actually already be at the point where they're engaged enough to interact with your content. The other thing is, it creates an image in their mind that even though they forgot you spoke about that 2 weeks ago, if they follow you over here, they've now remembered that. But that I think that's important to know, because often what happens, especially when you're a B2B owner, a lot of the same audience will follow you on different platforms. Especially if majority of cases, a lot of times your audience will just they'll see your profile, they'll follow you. And then if you're creating native content on these platforms instead of just doing the same thing, it'll be more interesting, because then what you can do is you can stretch one long form piece of content even further. Because what you can do is, let's say, like I said, the social search thing, I might post it on LinkedIn as the bullet pointed list. I might make a TikTok video that's more of a how-to guide of how to do it. But then on Twitter, I might post a meme about it, because I know that might work better on Twitter. And you see how that's the exact same piece of content, just in a different format. And I think a lot of people miss that. That does take a lot more work, and it can be a lot more frustrating. But this is why I said, like, if you're spacing out, like I like to do the 2 week thing, posting on a different platform every 2 weeks, that piece of content, what happens is you always have a piece of content to post on a platform at all times. But I don't like to overkill either, because what happens is a lot of people might hear that and be like, I need to be on Twitter, I need to be on TikTok, I need to be on... I usually like to focus on 2 to 3 main platforms for most of the brands I work with. Even for my own stuff, I literally, right now, I'm just focusing on LinkedIn and Twitter. Eventually going to move over to TikTok. I used to have like quite a big TikTok account, but that got taken down. So I'm going to be going back to TikTok soon. And but I've wanted to take my time with it, because I like to focus on one platform, or 1 to 2 to maybe 3 platforms at a time.
Interesting. Yeah, I think this probably sounds very overwhelming to some people, but what I think is interesting is, you said you don't do a lot on your personal brand, but I gotta say, I feel like I see you on my feed every other week, and I have done for months. You're at an event 1 minute, and then you're on someone's podcast, and then I see a post, and like you very quickly became known to me as the social search guy. So that's really interesting, because I actually met you like a year and a bit ago. So I don't think, it's not a quantity game. I think it's definitely quality, and you're producing quality at a cadence that makes me remember you. So I think that's important to note. But you mentioned there, don't do it simultaneously. So do you mean just don't post it? Or, like, for example, if I do an idea, should I batch produce this content whilst I'm in the flow? Or...
Yeah, I mean, batch producing it probably is one of the best ways to do it, because you've already got the ideas coming into mind. Like I said there with the social search thing, I might think of a meme right there and then. So I'll go, okay, cool, let me write this down. I'm very big at using my notes on my phone. So I'll literally just I'll just write down, this is what I want for LinkedIn, this is what I want for Twitter, this is what I want for TikTok. And then that's it, it's done. But what I won't do is I might produce that content straight away because I've got the motivation to, but I won't go away and post that straight away. The other thing is, if you're in an organization, the good thing is you'll probably have a team or an agency that are doing this for you. Oftentimes agencies are catching on to this, especially social agencies, that a lot of the good ones are doing exactly what I'm saying here. But if you've got a team in-house, you've got the resource to batch produce that content, like you said, at the start of the month, at the start of the week, that you can then reuse over the next couple of weeks and put it into your overall content calendar. And I think that's a lot of times what I've noticed is, when I go into even some agencies don't use content calendars. They just go week by week, which I really like, kind of scares me, because I feel like with a content calendar, you've got your month planned out. You know exactly what's going out when you can. The only thing is it takes a lot of upfront work, which I think a lot of people don't enjoy doing, but it saves you so much time during the month. So it's worth doing. But that's really good to hear that you said that about my stuff as well. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
No worries, man. It's deserved for sure. Your production. So where do you store all these ideas? Like, how do you keep track of them all? Like, because surely you can't produce them all, right? So how do you, I guess, just decide, oh, this is a good one? And then where do you store the ideas as well?
It's really hard. So I look at it as a percent. So when I do, like, I'll have like an evergreen strategy, which is all of the main kind of, which is like, you know how you would usually do like a content strategy for SEO. And I think this is what makes SEOs really good to go into social as well, because back when I was in social, I never used to plan content like this. It was until I went into SEO, I actually saw how structured like the SEOs, we know how to structure content. So I will literally set out my strategy similar to like a content map, where I'll do all my research, put all the ideas in and go, cool, these are the topics or ideas that I want to do over the next kind of, say, like month or 2 months. And then I'll just leave space for reactive. So on a weekly basis, let's say like search GPTs come out, or I don't know, TikTok's been banned or something's happened, I'll go, cool, I know I can speak about that. I've left space to do that. I'll go do that. And the same thing when I'm working with a client, I'll do the exact same thing, where I'll have their evergreen content that's mostly based around their customers' pain points and their kind of like standard content they would be posting. That's their business as usual. They're always on style of stuff, but I'll always leave space for reactive. And that I think is the best idea, the best way to kind of make sure that you're structured and you're on point. As for the excess of ideas, to be honest, it's all on my notes on my phone. Like I literally just have like a list of like things I just go for every time I see a YouTube video from someone. I mean, I've been massive on learning everything about the US over the last couple of months, just because I feel like there's a lot going on there. And a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I feel like the UK are massively ahead in terms of a lot of things on like marketing and content. Just from like, I know people over in the US, I speak to them on a regular basis. They manage the social media of some huge brands over there and SEO of some huge brands. And they tell me all the time, they're like, we are learning from the UK every day. Like every single day we're being taught these new tactics and things that we should be implemented. So I've been spending a lot of time learning about that. And I've literally just got a list on my notes that's just YouTube videos, notes underneath saying, I want to produce this based off that. This is what they care about. This is what people are interested in. And that's just like a bank of ideas. I ultimately want to get ChatGPT to kind of like sort that out for me or something at some point and then put it into a spreadsheet. But right now it's literally just all on my phone. I think because I've mostly always worked on my phone. I think until you have to actually do stuff for SEO on your laptop, everything else I just do on my phone. So
that's cool. Yeah, you need to get into the world of Notion. Notion's I used to hate Notion. I really did. I didn't see any value in it, but I've come to love it. It's great for storing ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I've never used it before. Do you use it for like everything, like your personal stuff and your business?
We're moving everything to it. Yeah, we're moving away from, we had a Google Sheet automated setup for all our content, and we're now moving it to Notion. It's just so clean. Like you've got different views so you can filter the data. It's basically like a no-code database. I used to think it was a note-taking app, but it's so much more. So you can have like a calendar view, you can have like a Kanban view. Yeah, I really like it. And it's definitely helped connect ideas. I quite like the backlink functionality in it, so I can connect different ideas. Feel like you would appreciate it once you get up and running, but yeah. Okay, so let's just say you're working with a new client and they have their own, unique lived experiences that would be super, super useful for your content production and your idea generation. How do you get that information? How do you ask them? What's the best techniques or questions or tactics that you've found that, because I've found clients are very, not cold, but it's very hard to extract that unless you're a good interviewer. And I wouldn't say I'm a good interviewer.
No, you have been, like, I mean, today you killed it. So you are good engine. So I feel like there's a few different things that I do personally that I think work. And I think because I think from uni, like I realized I really like just doing research. I love just deep diving into things and everything. So whenever I take on a new client and we're in that early stage of, say, doing a content strategy for their social, I'll, like, most of the time most of the clients I work with right now are either SEO and TikTok or both. So if I'm looking at TikTok, for example, I'll go away and I'll actually research their industry in depth of the type of content that's already being produced on TikTok. So I will literally make a new TikTok account and just follow people from their industry. I'll ask the people that they already follow, their competitors, etc. I'll go through like videos and I'll spend 3 days literally just in my spare time scrolling through, basically just really learning everything I can, seeing how content's formed, what kind of their native content is. And that usually, because I don't know what, I just learn really well from video. You can pick up a lot of nuances from their kind of their world, their niche, everything that people are speaking about right now, what's popular, what's interesting. And then I'll go away and I'll do one of these learning maps. I don't know if you've seen them before. There's like a few websites that do them. They use AI and you can just go through and you can learn a lot about that. And then I think I'll have a good enough understanding to have a conversation with them. And then I have like an onboarding questionnaire. So like I'll just go through that with them, where we'll just talk about everything from their audience to what their customers' pain points are, what their customers mostly come from, what they do on a day-to-day, how they built their business, if they're like a founder or if they're a larger organization brand, what their values are, what their mission is, that this kind of thing. I think all these things will then feed into like a wider strategy. And I'll use like some sort of AI note taker to kind of take all that information in, so I can go and look at it afterwards and then highlight bits that I find really interesting. And then I'll come back with some, based on all the research I've done, based on keyword research, based on audience analysis, you will have a list of ideas then from there, and then I'll take them back to the client. And then all of a sudden, I think once you've given those ideas to the client, they will suddenly turn around and go, actually, there's like these 10 things I think would be really cool, and all of a sudden you'll get the ball running. But the issue is, I think a lot of times when you, especially in agency space, they don't do the immersion side of things. I mean, I've seen it a lot with SEO agencies over the years. Sometimes they won't even do like an immersion day or workshop to learn about their clients. So they're relying completely on their client to tell them everything. Yes, they are the subject matter experts. Yes, they know that. And I work with a lot of brands that hedge funds or in the wealth management space, and they really, I mean, I've worked in finance, but I don't know it like they do. But I know enough to be able to have a conversation with them and to pick out things and go, oh wait, hold on, but do clients actually, your clients are interested in retirement planning, but shouldn't we ask them why they're interested in retirement planning, what's the goals? Like, I can go into a further detailed conversation about that, because I've understood exactly everything that, their services, their industry, their offers, things that other agencies probably wouldn't focus on, or other freelancers might not focus on. There's other things like you can do like marketing day immersion workshops with them as well. I think these work really well. Like, if it's a larger brand, you get their marketing team in a room and you literally open up like a board, like a Figma board, and you just throw on ideas. Everyone just throws on things they want to speak about, and you can just turn that into like a content strategy there and then. And they love it as well. I think clients love that because it opens up their eyes to things they never thought they would ever be speaking about and stuff. So yeah, that's mostly the processes that I go through.
Yeah, that sounds really fun to me. Yeah, I'm definitely an ideas guy. I have too many ideas that I can do anything with. That sounds really fun. Yeah, to actually go into the office, or I suppose you could do it online with Figma, like you said. But no, I like that a lot. You mentioned AI and using like an AI note taker. How do you feel about AI in actual production, content production?
I think it's awful at producing content. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know a lot of people would say to me, because it ranks and because they're getting affiliate sales from it, that it works. And fair play to them, because a lot of my friends in the industry who've got affiliate sites that are just relying on AI content, it's working for them. And I understand that's happening, but I just don't like over relying on it. And I think that you have to put in the same amount of work you would have to do with a human writer to make it humanized and to make it, like relevant to the user in a way that it feels like a natural experience. It will get easier. Don't get me wrong. I feel like since the inception of ChatGPT, we've seen how much better it's got over the last couple of years. I mean, there are times where I've read a piece of content and I've gone, wow, this is actually really good for AI. But I think that human element is still necessary. I think if you use it for your ideation, this is the thing, right? So I think people are using it in the wrong way. They're using it to do the production when they could be using it to expand their research, expand their ideas, bounce ideas off them, maybe automate a few processes, make it easier to check for grammatical mistakes or sense check, and ensure facts are correct. You can do these kind of things with it instead of over relying on it just to mass produce a load of content that's just copied and pasted off a competitor sitemap, for example. I think you need to keep that creativity as well, and that's something I feel a lot of these AI models don't have. And I feel like when you're working with like a human team, they have that creativity, because this is something, right? I was speaking about this the other day, where people don't realize that the AI model needs to collect the data, and it needs the time to collect enough data to produce an idea. So if you're working on a reactive piece of content, it's never going to be able to collect enough data in time for you to produce a piece of content that can pick up on that trend. So that's one thing that people don't realize. There will always be a time lag. There will always be a time lag for AI to produce that content. It needs to build that data up. But yeah, like I said, the creativity is then missing as well. So when you go to a human, they will be able to think of angles because of their own personal experiences, the things that they've gone through, the way that, like I said, when I research on TikTok, I'm seeing things that AI probably isn't looking at. I'm seeing angles that AI isn't looking at. So I think, yeah, don't over rely on it. Don't use it to produce your content, but you can use it to maybe create your content skeletons, or maybe, I don't know, use it to produce pieces of your content, or build and expand ideas. And then you get the human to actually do a bulk of the writing, the creative strategy, the implementation of the creative. But yeah, I think there's a long way to go before it completely replaces writers. I think we're still at a point where we still need a lot of human intervention.
Yeah, I agree. I think so I've been calling it stimuli, like angles, hooks, subject lines. Like to me, like I'm just calling that, or bracketing it as stimuli. And the thing is, stimuli, like what works now will be old news in 2 weeks. Like you see it all the time with these kids called DMing people at scale. They all use the same hook. And I remember looking at it first and I'm like, that's quite cool. I like that angle. Do you know what? I'll maybe give them the time of day, and then tomorrow someone else does it, and then you've had like 50. And the stimuli gets old really, really quick. So if you're trying to do a reactive piece, or even just like creating a nice, I mean, I'm sure the reader or the listeners who are listening, you've read an article before that just sounds like, poetic, clear, very easy to understand, like things like music, and that is really good stimuli. ChatGPT can't do that.
It doesn't feel natural, and it just, like you said, with the I'd made the mistake of turning my Twitter DMs on, and since then, like literally, it's just been all these spam messages. And like you said, I the first one I read, I was like, that's actually pretty good. I like the way that they DM me there. And then all of a sudden, you get 15 more, and you're like, okay, this is just like somebody sold a course somewhere on Discord, and now everyone's using this.
Yeah, I don't mind the DMs, to be honest with you. Sometimes they give me ideas, so I think I'm one of the only person that doesn't mind that. Okay, cool. This has been great. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing. I've just got a couple of questions, but the more personal questions I just want to ask you. So the first one is, what's one burning question in SEO that you wish you had the answer to?
Oh, in SEO, that is a good one. That is tough. That is very, very tough.
Sorry if I've stumped you.
You've hit me there, but that is a good one. In SEO, I would say probably the one that's on my mind right now is how much of the Google leak is actually priority. Like I think that's probably to Google. I mean, like how much of that, because we've got the list and we know some stuff is working, and a lot of people deep dived into it and stuff, but I would love to know what is actually priority. Basically tell me what the Google algorithm is. But that's probably the one that comes to mind to me at the moment.
You mean like how they weight the different points? Right, I see. Okay, cool. And then the next one is, how do you envision the future of SEO in the context of increased social media usage? I know the answer, but I'd love for you to just summarize.
Yeah, sure. So I think that search is going to grow. It's going to grow massively into loads of other platforms. I think more and more of Google's market share will go, and it will cause them to probably do some drastic changes over the next couple of months to years, which is going to affect SEOs who aren't ready to adapt. And I think if you're not ready to adapt, then I don't know what to say to you, because we can see the changes happening right now in real time. So I think that's going to happen. I think the brand is going to become more important. I think SEOs are going to be more in demand across various different platforms, whether that's Amazon, whether that's TikTok, whether that's YouTube. Search will play a part. It will just change. It will just change massively. Like even Search GPT says that they in one of the tweets I saw yesterday, they were saying that they might include links to URLs, and we've already seen TikTok is including URLs and indexing URLs, so there is a chance that it's just going to move. But yeah, I think the main thing is, yeah, just please just don't be scared. Like, don't be scared. Like, embrace it. This is actually really fun. Like, I feel like I love change, and I love transitioning into new things and trying new things. So for me, I know that it can be scary at times, but it's exciting. Like, we're at the heart of this as well. So this is industry defining moments that are coming ahead. So take advantage of that, everyone who's listening.
Very cool. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Ray. It was very good episode. I appreciate it a lot.
Cheers, man. Thank you for having me. Like I said, I followed you for so long. So this incredible being here with you today. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ray. Thanks.